News stories were coming in about this strange virus in Wuhan, China. It was weeks before we saw the first cases in the US. As the numbers went up each day, my curiosity got the best of me, and I started plotting the curves. Here's stories from real people all over the world and how they've responded. I'm Sally Hendrick, founder of Shout Your Cause, and this is COVID-19, The World Responds. Hello, Keaton Wilson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So tell me, who are you? What do you do?
Well, my name is Keaton Wilson. Right now I'm a college student. I'll be graduating in about 2 weeks, actually.
Wow.
On May 2nd, with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. My major is Business Management with a minor in English. And I'm also a student tutor at the Writing Center on campus, and I'm also the Public Relations and Strategic Planning intern at the Wesley Foundation, which is a campus Methodist ministry on UTM's campus.
UTM, and where is UTM?
UTM is the University of Tennessee at in Martin, Tennessee. So it's in West Tennessee, about an hour from Humboldt.
I happen to know that area pretty
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I grew up here. This is the town I've grown up in, and I love it here. And Martin's just another small town, but it's not much of a difference, but it's good to have a different change of scenery a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you are about to graduate then in a couple of weeks, but obviously it's not going to be a public event. What's
Right.
happening? What are they doing?
So we got the email from Chancellor Dr. Keith Carver about a week or so ago saying that we will have a virtual graduation ceremony at 11 a.m. on Facebook Live.
What day is that?
On May 2nd.
May 2nd.
So when the traditional graduation ceremony was supposed to be held, it will be a virtual event instead. And then we are planning on having a traditional ceremony in August. And so we'll see how that pans out.
Now, did you guys actually order caps and gowns and all of that for the graduation?
So technically I get a pass because my cap and gown from high school was all black. And so that's what's required for my college graduation. So so I can use that. I do have to buy a gold cord because I'll be graduating with honors. But I think that's about like $10. But typically, yes, for students who are graduating, you need to buy the cap and gown and any cords if you're graduating with honors or anything like that.
But obviously, it doesn't matter what you wear for this one. They're just going to be calling you out over a live presentation on Facebook, right?
That's how I understand it, yes.
Okay. So no faces necessarily of all the students, and just a call out of your name and maybe where you're from or something like that, or your major.
Right. So they'll basically just say everybody's names aloud and and if you're graduating summa cum laude or magna or whatever. Yeah. And then what department you're graduating, like what degree. And then I think that's about it.
Okay.
But it'll be a new experience for everybody. It took them a while to officially decide on that because I remember so Martin closed its doors on March 11th, and when we got the announcement, we had to leave that day.
That day.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
Those who live in the dorms had Friday to move stuff out. And maybe a little bit over the weekend, but other than that, you had to be gone. So Wesley closed its doors that day, and so everything just shut down. And then there were no classes that Thursday and Friday, and then starting that following Monday, it was online only. And then, but at that time, it was only going to be online only until April 3rd. But I had a gut feeling that it was going to be extended much longer than that. Most likely throughout the rest of the year and throughout the summer as well. And so the waiting period between March 11th to April, what's today? The 17th.
17th.
So we got word around April 8th, I'd say, that we were going to have a virtual ceremony and then a traditional ceremony in August. So there was a lot of waiting time, being like, what are we going to do? So I imagine that their conversations were, I think the faculty senate was actually talking with other people within the University of Tennessee system, and then I think they were actually branching out and talking to other universities around the area to see what they were planning on doing, and I think everyone was just coming together to brainstorm ways to move forward.
So as far as like instruction goes, you've still been in classes online for the last couple of weeks, and you've got a little bit more to go. How's that going?
It's hard. But thankfully, it's not hard just for the students. It's hard for everybody, right? So it's been a trial and error kind of thing for a lot of the time. And with my capstone course especially, the whole class is pretty centered around this giant simulation. And so I have to meet with my group, and clearly I can't do that now, so we've been having to do it over FaceTime and stuff. And then and so I've had to take 3 exit exams before I graduate. And I took one because we got word that the university was closing on Wednesday and my exam was on Thursday. So they went ahead and honored my appointment and let me take my test. And then a couple weeks later, we got word that all the exit exams would be waived for seniors for that semester only. So that took some of the, worry off. But then professors replaced, gave replacement assignments for the exit exams,
right,
to compensate for that. And a lot of professors have been offering extra credit, and just being a little more lenient on students, and kind of checking in on their students. Martin's always been really good about that.
Now, have you had a problem that you've noticed, and I may have to ask this to someone else, but have you had a problem with other students not having Wi-Fi or easy access to get into these classes, or FaceTime for that matter, on their phones? That's just an Apple phone type of thing.
Right. So when the university first closed, that was a lot of students worried, and a lot of professors worried about that too, because how can you do online work without the Wi-Fi, right? So the UT Martin library actually announced something on Facebook that said, hey, if you don't have a Charter account, Charter is allowing students and K through 12 families free Wi-Fi access for 60 days.
Wow.
Beginning March 16th.
And Charter is the area's internet provider, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a local name, so a lot of people listening may not recognize that. So I'm going to actually be talking to the chancellor of UT Martin at some point. I was supposed to talk to him yesterday. I was supposed to talk to him maybe 3 or 4 days ago. He's very busy, and he's having a lot of emergency meetings popping up all the time. So that interview has not actually happened yet, but I definitely am going to be talking to him and incorporating his messaging into this. And I also spoke with a college counselor. She is a private college counselor, someone you know, Elizabeth Antony, and I've got an interview that I already recorded with her last week. So I will be pulling all 3 of these together as, like a little mini series, if you will, around college. So as far as what's going on, you're still working for the Writing Center in a way?
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about that. So, I am working with the Writing Center over Zoom. That's how I conduct my sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been meeting with people a few times a week, students a few times a week, to discuss essays and final papers and stuff, because all that's still going on and coming up. Um, and I have meetings with my staff every week. So every
Mm-hmm.
Monday we chat over Zoom about how online sessions are going, what
Mm-hmm.
are our concerns. Um, and the director said that if graduating seniors have the free time in the summer, we could work throughout the summer over Zoom for tutoring. And then since graduating seniors will have a degree by the summer, I'll also be staff instead of a student tutor. I would no longer be a student tutor. I would
It's
be in
like
the
a
group.
little promotion.
Yeah. So I plan on doing that if Lakeshore falls through, which is something that I wanted to also talk to you about. So, for those of you who don't know, Lakeshore is a nonprofit organization that is basically this summer camp, but they work throughout the year. So, throughout the fall and spring, they have retreats every
Mm-hmm.
so often. But
Mm-hmm.
then summer is when they really, shine because it's one big summer camp for kids. And I worked on staff as a counselor, as a camp counselor, and for 2 weeks of the 12 weeks I was there, I was also a lifeguard. So I was on staff
That was a
in
couple of
summer,
years ago, wasn't it?
yeah, it was summer 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and then I realized that this is my very last chance to do Lakeshore because I'll be 23 um, this summer, and I'll be graduated by then. And so I was reluctant to apply because I didn't know what my plans were for after graduation. And now that this has come up, I don't know if Lakeshore is even going to happen. It'll be blessed.
Mm-hmm.
It, it will really be a blessing if it does happen. And selfishly, I really want it to happen, not only for myself, but I want the kids to be able to experience the camp as well.
Yeah.
But more importantly than anything, I want what is best for our world. And if that is not having camp at all, or at least delaying it somewhat,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board with whatever they decide. I think the American Camp Association, I think that's what the name is,
Mm-hmm.
they will make the official decision on summer camp when that time comes. But a
Okay.
lot of camps have already called it and said that they would not do
Mhm.
summer camp this year.
Now, some universities have also called off fall classes as far as in person. They're planning way ahead right now. Boston University is one of the ones. I think it was Boston University or Boston College. I can't remember which one, but whichever one it was, they called off the fall semester as far as in person teaching, and they are going to have an online semester then. So that's pretty serious. And I wonder if that's going to happen around the country or if it's going to be pockets of that happening here and there. It's going to really make a difference in where people go. We've got a lot of graduating high school seniors who don't know what's going to happen this fall. We even have a child that's in the 11th grade who is supposed to do a pre-senior year, rising senior program at a college this summer, but that may get canceled. And so we don't know how that's going to play out either. It may be an online thing. And that would be unfortunate because that really wasn't the purpose of why we signed up our child for that. So who knows what's going to really happen going forward. So as far as you though, you'll be done with classes, you'll have your degree, and then you're going to be going out into the real world to get your big job, that first
Mhm.
job that you go into. Obviously you're doing different things and you've got some other opportunities, which is amazing for you to have that with the university, with the writing center, and then potentially with the camp. But beyond that, what are you thinking about? Or what's worrying you or challenging you about it?
A big worry that I have right now is that businesses will start to open back up too soon,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get another wave of the virus come fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my biggest fears in all this, because at this point anything is a possibility, and
Mm-hmm.
really nothing is off the table.
No,
Because
and that interferes with your job hunt.
it does, and it does because Apple has actually been on my mind for a long time, getting a job at Apple, and I've been keeping an eye on them, and their retail stores have been closed for I want to say over a month now. They closed pretty soon after all of this kind of blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm keeping an eye on them, and I know that they're still like they came out with a new iPad in the middle of the pandemic, so production may still be going on, but as far as retail stores go,
Mm-hmm.
they're closed right now. I know I don't have to worry too much about what I'm gonna do come fall, because if Lakeshore doesn't work out, I've got a writing center, position that I could
True.
do throughout the summer, and I'm also a freelance editor. Um, I've been editing some novels throughout my time in college, and so that will give me some time to really process and try to really discern what I really want to do. College, since going online, you think it would be easier. People have been asking me, hasn't school just become so much easier for you? Like you have so much more time on your hands. I'm like, I've actually no, like I've actually had to jump through a lot more hoops. Um, Trying to juggle everything and all of my assignments and stuff like that. And with my Wesley internship, my PR and strategic planning internship, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that work was done on campus at the Wesley building, interacting with people, interacting with alumni, building relationships with regional churches. And it's much harder to do that virtually and from a
Mm-hmm.
distance,
Mm-hmm.
but we've been adapting. I'm very proud of all of our student leaders for coming up with innovative ways to stay connected. Like we started a blog, UTM Wesley is the name, and we post about 3 times a week, and we've had many volunteers, be like, "Hey, I want to contribute," so that's been great.
Good.
Um, but it's definitely been a lot, definitely a time of transition, and I know that's the case for everybody. But since things have gotten so much more hectic for me over the past month or so, because it's been a little bit over a month now, I haven't had much time to really process not only what's going on in our world, because it's a lot that's going on in our world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had much time to really think all that much about the future, because school has been so busy, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the home stretch with me being only 2 weeks away from getting my degree. So that it's exciting, it's scary, it's fun, it's awesome, it's bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you definitely the first graduating class dealing with COVID-19. That's for sure. It's kind of strange. It's a very strange time that we're in.
Yeah.
So, as far as like where you are locally, are there challenges you're facing or worries that you're dealing with in your local space?
Well, my mom is someone who, I don't know a better way to put it. She's a smoker over 50. Um, and
Say that again. It cut out.
she's a
She's
smoker over
a smoker
50.
over 50. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how else to really say it. But that's been worrying me a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
technically her business is essential.
Okay.
And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that, but I can't help but kind of, think of it from the perspective of that. So my mom works at Verizon, and she works at an authorized dealer called Victra Verizon.
Victor.
And
Mm-hmm.
so Verizon is obviously this really big company, right? But then you've got your authorized dealers. So you've got Russell Cellular, Cellular Sales, Victra, where my mom works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So Russell Cellular has closed its doors. US Cellular has closed its doors, or at least in some areas. And then the corporate store, even the corporate store down the road from my mom's work, has also closed its doors. For a while, they were only letting one person in at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got to a point where they just shut it down completely. So because of that, my mom's Verizon store is pretty much the only one open in the area. And so all of the business from the corporate store is going over to my mom's store. And so it's brought in a bunch more business, which has given my mom, it's been helping her financially,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of her health, it's definitely a big risk that she's having to take, because she can't take time off. She can't not say no if she's on the schedule, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so they, at first, they were taking some really good precautions. Like they were only letting people in, like they were only allowing 10 people in the store at a time, including the employees.
Mm-hmm.
um and so that went on for a while, and then Verizon sent them like gloves to wear, so when they're working with phones, because you'd be surprised at how dirty phones actually are.
Oh no,
And
I know.
yeah,
We have one of those deionization type things called the phone soap, and it's a box that you open and you put your phone in it and you keep it closed in there for 10 minutes, and it kills all the germs.
I actually need to get one of those because I actually may look that up. Thank you for telling me about
We
that.
all line up our phones at night. It's like, no, mine's next. Mine's next.
Everyone needs that for sure. Absolutely. Um, but
But
so
she's handling the phones and
yeah, like with her gloves and such. And then she also put like a line of tape around her desk to make sure that customers stay 6 feet away.
mhm,
And then they also are offering curbside help. So like if you need help with, so if you're not necessarily getting a new phone, but you need help with something else, they can come outside
mhm,
and come to your car and things like that. And then they shorten their hours, so instead of being open from 10 to 7, they're open from wait, yeah, instead of being open from 10 to 7, they're open from 11 to 6.
mhm.
But then all of a sudden they stopped. I guess they ran out of gloves to send. So I don't know if my mom's been, I don't know if they've gotten more
Well,
gloves.
there's also the concern, they say that the gloves really are just passing the germs from one thing to the next, and that really you should be more like wear the mask or whatever, use your hands to do things, but then use the hand sanitizer or wash your hands before you touch the next thing. So that's probably where that's coming from, and they're not sending the gloves. I'm going to make that assumption.
Gotcha. And that makes some sense too, because for a long time I was just like, why are they even still open? You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
can't help but think that it's a money thing.
Yeah.
Like,
So you
and
would think that maybe they could handle a lot of this over the phone and through the mail.
yeah, I 110% agree. And
Yeah.
the most frustrating part about it all, Sally, is the fact that I could be doing my part all day by quarantining and social distancing and being by myself, but my mom is having to work every single day, and she's
Hmm.
even going in on her days off because she's getting so busy, because
Hmm.
she's getting so much more business now,
Hmm.
and which is good, but she could be contacting the like she could be catching the virus and not even know it, and that's what's most scary.
Right.
um,
Well, we'll hope that that's going to be a positive outcome there, and that she won't get the virus or that nothing will happen. We'll just hope for that. So, as far as anything else, what about with friends or other people you're seeing around? Are you getting out of the house at all? Are you driving around or going to any of the stores when you need something?
I'm going to Walmart to get groceries.
Mm-hmm.
when I need to, and I have to go to the pharmacy every couple weeks, but I go through the drive-through. I
Mm-hmm.
don't go through the actual store,
Mm-hmm.
and I wear a mask everywhere I go. Um, but really, outside of Walmart, I don't really go anywhere else. The other day, I got so bored in this house, I was about to go insane. Um, so I don't have a very busy neighborhood at all. So I've been going on runs, going on walks, just to be outside and get some vitamin D, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also just went for a drive, and I just drove to Medina, drove past my old high school, drove around the parking lot, and
Just to
didn't
get
really,
out.
yeah, just to get out for a little bit and kind of, because it's, for the most part, it's felt really good outside. It got really cold for a few days, but then now it's back up to 75. So right now it's sunny and 75. So I may go
Mm-hmm.
outside later today. Um, and with it being, it's staying lighter later.
Longer, right? The daylight.
Yeah, that, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
as far as like your friends are concerned, have you talked to them? What's going on there? What are they doing?
I've talked to them over FaceTime and over Zoom and over the phone. And they're struggling in a lot of the same ways that I am, understandably so.
Yeah.
There, a lot of, um, a lot of my friends are in different colleges within UTM. So some are majoring in biology, some are majoring in
Right.
geology, some are majoring in veterinary science. And so some of their professors have actually doubled the workload for some of them.
That's
And I just really hate that. Yeah, it's
That's
not.
hard. That's not good because we've had to struggle with that with our high school in that not that they were doubled the work at all, but that kids were having to suddenly deal with they were dealing with all the transition, all the change, and then having to be online and not getting to see their friends, not getting to have that social time. And that creeps in this additional anxiety that makes people need a little more space and a little more time and room to develop into a new normal. And so they actually started backing off of what was going on with the schoolwork in order to account for the fact that we all need a little bit of mental space and emotional space to adjust.
Right. And for the most part, I can say that as far as my experience goes, my
Mm-hmm.
professors have been more than understanding about what's going on, and they've done a really good job of helping us adapt in the best
Mm-hmm.
way that they know how, because it's never happened to them either. And
Yeah.
so a big thing that I've been telling myself and reminding myself is to have grace for my professors, because their job is already really hard, harder than I can ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I just tried to be very understanding of their of how their new normal is shifting. Um, but I am hearing some stories here and there that it seems like their workload is like being increased, and things are getting harder for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're getting more assignments because it's online now. Um,
Gotcha. Well, what about your hopes about this? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, life has its ups and downs. We have all these things that we go through, but there's always a silver lining. There's always a lesson to be learned or some good to come out of it. So what are your hopes for what's to come from this?
I can't I can't not say that, I always think that God is at work, even in the midst of so much uncertainty, so much chaos, so
Hmm.
much catas, is catastrophe a word? Yes, it is.
Yeah, catastrophe.
Yeah, in so much catastrophe, I still think God is at work, and I think that, you know, we have no choice but to come together
Hmm.
as people and as citizens of not only the United States, because this is a global pandemic, right? So we all have to come together and put this united front up and do our part individually, so that we can come out of this on the other side as a better world and as better people because of this. Because it's the fact is, you can throw any theory out there that you want or that you believe in, but the fact is that it is here in our world, and
Mm-hmm.
we have to take the steps in order to mitigate this virus and to stop it and slow the spread as best as we can. And I know that what we feel like we can do feels very limited, but actually just by social distancing and taking this seriously and not calling
Mm-hmm.
it a hoax or labeling it as this or that, or calling it an overreaction or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a big thing to just do our part by by staying informed. And I think that's the best way for us to move forward. It starts with being informed and watching the news and keeping up with the CDC guidelines and what they're recommending for us to do
Mm-hmm.
in this time. And so that's, and I have a lot of faith, because I really think that a lot of us are really, most of us are really taking this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
um, and we're starting to see a little bit of flattening the curve, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, my biggest fear is businesses opening back up
Too
uh,
soon.
sooner than they should.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like some businesses may do that, and then we'll start seeing a little bit of a spike again,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it more possible for it to come back up in the fall. And I would really hate, honestly, I would just really hate to see that for 2020. Um,
And who
but
knew that 2020 was going to be this? Who
right,
knew? Isn't it crazy?
yeah. And in January or December, January, we started seeing little bits and pieces, like in other countries,
Right.
and then all of a sudden we just got a big rush in the United States. And then I was like, but the university's not going to close, like schools, because I mean, we don't even close for snow. You know what I mean? Like really, really, like tons of snow. We don't even close for that. But then the moment it was, I'm serious, Sally, like the moment that I realized that this was a true possibility that the university could close, that's the moment it became our reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that timing is different for everybody, and the realization of what's happening is different for everybody. And hopefully people will, wake up to what's happening. And but we also need to understand that it's very important for the economy to continue as well. We've just got to adjust and adapt, and then go back into this with a very metered, measured response, which is what I believe that the government is trying to do now. And there was a big press conference yesterday that I would love to direct to you for you to look at. So, and I'll be discussing more of that as we go along, as I do more interviews with people, and as I write more articles about this. So I'll love to get an update from you at some point on what's happening. So if we could wrap this up, unless you've got something else to add to the conversation. Anything else you want to say?
Um, I just think it's important now more than ever for us to really start paying attention to what's going on the news and what's going on in our world, and realize that it's important for us to really pay it. It's just really important for us to pay attention and for us to come together
Yeah.
during this time.
And give
That's the
each
only
other
way.
grace and space in
Yes.
the
Yeah.
process, because it's not easy and everybody has a different opinion and
Right.
all of that, but we've got to give each other grace and space and throughout.
Amen. And I really think that love is probably the biggest piece of the puzzle here. And
Mm-hmm.
by keeping our distance from one another, that's loving our neighbors well, and that's how we are going to move uh, forward together as one body toward healing. And that's the only way we'll come out on top. That's the only way we'll fight this and defeat this.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Sally. I hope you're staying safe and washing your hands and doing well.
I'm doing it.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening today. Subscribe to this podcast to hear all our episodes. Go to shoutyourcause.com to our podcast page for information on our guests and notes from this show.